Hi everyone, Craig here. So it's been quite some time since I showed you around my garden or shared any videos in general, and that's because we've been making quite a bit of change. I've closed the online Grow Paradise plant and seed shop, which means we've opened up a lot of space in our garden again. This is the space we were holding plant stock before, so this is going to be a space where I get to play with all sorts of plants, experiment a bit again, try new plants and share with you the process from my garden. Now, it is a real mess at the moment. There is random pots everywhere, there's leaves all over the garden because it's autumn, and I want this channel to continue to be honest and real, so I'm going to share with you the reality of what a garden that used to be a small online nursery that's turning back into a private garden looks like. But I will show you some details in the garden because some things are actually looking really good. The daytime temperatures are still quite mild. Nighttime temperatures have only dropped below 10 degrees Celsius for a short period of time, so things are still growing really well and are looking really green, albeit slightly torn up because of the coastal winds. So let me show you around. So this border here is the border that we called the jungle border a couple of years ago that we created. It's quite a narrow border between this wooden post here and the fence panel at the back. It's slightly raised up because we're on clay soil, which improves drainage, and we've managed to grow a real good mix of plants. We've got rare plants like the Pseudopanax laetus and this Brasseopsis mitis, which is getting to a good height now, so I think I'm probably going to take some cuttings. And then evergreens like this Fatsia polycarpa green fingers, which is looking the best this year that I think it's ever looked, as well as this loquat. Now all of this gets a good chop back, tripping over here, a good chop back to about 6 or 7 foot in height so that it's really easy to maintain every year. I don't have to get a ladder out. But one thing that we're going to change next year is the bananas. They have got to a really good size and they're great for adding jungle leaves. But in this small bed, it's really narrow. As you know, with banana plants, once you've got one, they turn into many, and this clump is just getting too big, it's using up too much space. So I'm going to take them out. It's something I've done before, and then I missed that big foliage and I put them back in, but next year we're going to take them out. So this bed is looking relatively good, despite previously being tucked behind the nursery benches. And at the start of last year, we shared the creation of this wildlife pond, which has become home to some frogs that we raised in our new pond that's on the patio. And because it's been in shade, it's actually stayed really clear through summer. I don't disturb that much. It's a nice kind of sheltered corner for any wildlife there. And the frogs that we've got in the garden now are really helping control slugs and snails, which have been a bit of a problem before. But the space in front of this bed is where we were holding nursery stock before. And you can see that lovely Cotswold chipping stone. This was a really nice creamy white colour. It was all just turned green and algae coloured because obviously when there's nursery stock there that was on benches like this, we're constantly watering it with a hose pipe. So that's trickled down, kept it shaded and moist, so it's turned this colour. But I'm hoping when the sun gets on here in summer next year, it's going to really come back to its natural colour, which was a bit more like this. I can rake it over and turn it over to help that process. So this is some of the plants that we've got left. I will still be selling at local plant fairs, most likely the 2 of the season at Abbotsbury Subtropical Gardens. So I will be keeping some stock that I'm selling in person at plant fairs, but not online. But as this goes, this bench is going to go as well. And then we're hoping to create a nice seating area in this new open space in the middle of the garden, because we'll have the height and shelter from this bed, as well as this narrow bed that flanks the garden path. And this area gets the most evening sun. They've put the patio on the back of the house, but evening sun is down here, which is why it's been the perfect spot for the greenhouse. And to be honest, the best spot for evening seating would be exactly where the greenhouse is. But I don't want to move that. So I think something up against there, surrounded by lush foliage and a climber, a scented climber coming up here, will look really good. But that's the process for me to play with over the next few months and into next year, because at the moment it's a bit of a mess, but everything's still growing, so I'm not chopping anything back just yet. One bit of gardening I have done is I've planted some bulbs in this bed, and I've planted Camassia bulbs as well as some fritillaries in here, far enough away from the bananas so that when I dig them up in spring next year, I shouldn't disturb the bulbs too much. And I've also created a bulb lasagna in these pots, which I've filmed, and that should be next week's video for you. So yeah, I'm excited to share how we play with this and make it look like a tidy, well-loved, small space private garden again. Those who have been following our channel over the years know how many iterations this garden's had. We've had a shed, a deck, a pond, a stream, the hammock, the nursery, another pond. We've created a pond just over this side of the dividing picket fence in the garden. I'm really pleased with how this pond is coming on. But this area, I'd love for this climbing hydrangea. I think this is Hydrangea serrata. It's evergreen, and I just want it to cover that picket fence so that it creates a really nice secluded area here. I've filmed the whole process of creating this pond, so I will share that video, but I'm saving that for winter. So when we're all stuck indoors, you can see kind of how this pond was created and matured over this summer. We've raised frogs, newts, we've got native shoal of minnows, we've got these 2 fancy goldfish in here. So I think that'll be a good video to release in winter. But despite the fact that I'm not having as much time in the garden, I think the areas that are planted aren't looking too bad. This is the narrow border that's become, well, it's a bit of a mess because it's autumn. So we've got these big leaves coming off our golden bean tree. They're dropping, so we'll mulch those into the bed, just following the natural cycles like a forest. Just let all the leaf litter sit on the surface of the ground. That will act as a natural mulch, and it will feed all of the growth for next season. But this bed's become a bit of a begonia display this year. And these are all hardy begonias. Begonia pedata feeder with this palmate leaf. These were new in the past couple of seasons. This is begonia dark side of the moon, which I know a lot of you are now growing. This one's been great. This survived -6 degrees Celsius in our garden. We've got begonia sterling moon. It has these kind of pinky silver new leaves. Both of these begonias have dark red undersides. I think these are fantastic. So they're relatively new introductions. I did a video last year or the year before about the chap who bred them and introduced them to the UK from the US, and I think he's done a great job. The whole idea was to introduce hardy begonias that have some of the coloration of those really colourful Rex begonia types that you get as houseplants. This one's just finished flowering now, but this did have bright pink flowers that contrasted with these metallic black leaves really nicely. This was our water bowl. This was a part of the patio display before, where that new pond is now. This has been really good this year with these floating tropical plants in there. It's getting just to a temperature now that these are starting to look a bit messy. They're going to need protection from cold weather, so I'm going to move those into the greenhouse. Next year, we're also going to be changing this bed. It's been roughly this layout for 5 or 6 years now, and this patio, or this slab path, is 2 slabs wide. One of the slabs is just completely swallowed up by this Acorus grass that's hanging over. Now, when I started using this as an evergreen edging plant of this path, the idea was to soften that hard edge a bit, because there's so many straight lines in this garden, as there are in so many houses with small gardens, especially new builds or relatively new builds. But as this has matured and formed a clump, it's sort of crept out of the bed and it's running all the way across the path, and we just want to open this up again. So if I'm doing that, I'm going to dig up the whole bed. I'm going to save as many plants as I can to put back into the display or move around the garden. And we're going to redesign this whole bed. Because if we're going for a period of change, I think that's the time to take the opportunity to play around a bit. If you've got a small space, you need to change some of the displays up sometimes, otherwise you run out of space to play. All of the larger plants, like these shrubs, we've got a laurel here, a grisselenia, Fatsia variegata, and that large golden bean tree that's now lost most of its leaves. They'll all stay in place because they're forming a bit of the shelter belt and it's protecting this garden from the coastal winds. But I'm looking forward to playing here. Now, part of the change that I want to do is to soften some of the planting. I've got a real theme of big, sturdy leaves, like you get in a tropical style display. But I want to introduce some softness to get that contrast. And that was an idea that I picked up from one of the videos that George did at Pan Global Plants, where Nick Mesa, who is a great plantsman, was talking about the need for that contrast to help you kind of showcase each of the plants' character traits, characteristics. So if you just have big rigid leaves, the effect is sort of lost. If I can get some more delicate flowers in here, some softer foliage like grasses or something like that, it should balance it all out more. And it's just an opportunity for me to play and to try some new plants. Now these yellowing leaves are Begonia grandis. It's a hardy begonia, gets nice and tall. It had white flowers here. But this one produces bulbils up the stems. Let me see if I can show you. There you go. So you get these little bulbils growing on the leaf axils, and they drop, land in the bed. So once you've got one plant, as it's done that over the years, it has spread around. Now this year, I did actually see a really nice and special variegated form pop up. And I don't know if it was a bulbil, which is unlikely because they should be an exact clone of the parent plant, or if this begonia crossed with one of these when they were planted next to each other and it produced a variegated leaf. I dug it up, potted it on, tried to raise it so that I could propagate from it, because it would be a new form that we could name. And it looked really sorry for itself and died back. So I've labelled the pot, and I'm hoping it regrows next spring. But in hindsight, I should have left it where it was and just protected it in situ and let it grow into a stronger plant before I lifted it. But that's part of the process sometimes. It's just learning from your mistakes. But I really do hope it grows back, because it was a special plant, and I looked online and I don't think it's something that's popped up in anybody else's garden before, so it was a one-off. So I really hope it grows back. Now, things from the nursery that we'll keep are these 3 growing units. We did have 6, but I want to open up as much space as possible. So I'm using these as a nice way to maximize the growing space I've got, because they're tall, they're vertical, and they come with these covers. They act like vertical polytunnels in a small space, which is great. They're out of the way. I can keep them there. You'll notice the compost bags leaning against these. That's because we've had some strong coastal winds recently, so that just puts a bit of weight there. The fence behind them helps shelter them from the wind a bit. Now, most of the plants in here, again, are growing for the plant fairs. I love going to plant fairs to sell, because I get to speak in person to all of you. I get to put faces to names, and it's nice to get out there and see, and I get to spend some pocket money as well and buy something new for my garden. So it's a way for me to carry on propagating plants and sharing that passion for plants with all of you. So these Melianthus were grown from seed. This is a Geranium madurense. There's 2 forms. Straight species with the pink flowers, and Guernsey white down the bottom with white flowers. Because I'm growing on a smaller scale now, just for the plant fairs, I can get back to growing everything from seed, from cuttings, from divisions, back to the side of horticulture and growing that I really, really love. This is a hardy prickly pear, a Puntia Pumithusa. I think it was from Mexico. It's got a lovely yellow flower. Again, I've grown all of these from cuttings. The slugs obviously enjoy these. And this is a sea of white foxglove. Now, because we've closed the online shop, a lot of space in our greenhouse has opened up. And all we've got is this standard domestic sized 8 foot by 6 foot greenhouse. So to have a lot more space in here to grow plants from seed and for our own garden displays is fantastic. In all the time I've had this greenhouse, I've mostly been using it to hold nursery stock. And it's really, really nice to have the opportunity to play around with horticulture again, to try some new plants. So I've grown those foxgloves from seed over the past few months because my wife asked, well, we sat down and we did a nice display drawing together, choosing some of the plants that we want. And rather than going out and buying them, we've grown them. So I've also sown some seeds for Delphinium Misty Lavender. We're going for a theme in part of the garden next year of kind of soft blues and purples and whites, and I'm going to try and carry that through to the tropical side of the garden, but where the colours get slightly more intensified, so those soft blues and purples become more intense and the pinks turn into intense reds, like on this Fuchsia boliviana. Now, you might notice some plants in this greenhouse that I've not shown you before, so I'll show you those and then we'll wrap up today's video. I'm going to try and upload weekly if I can, but I'm not going to be too hard on myself if I can't. But I do want to carry on sharing my passion for plants with all of you and for horticulture, and sharing some tips and how-to guides. And the Grow Paradise website is now a blog that has plant profiles on it. It's got gardening tips, it's got how-to guides, garden tours, and I'll share videos from other people online that I love, because if I've enjoyed it, then I'm sure all of you will. And it's nice to have a place that's got it all brought together. Now, this is a plant that I first saw on Yorkshire Chris's channel. It's Amicia zygomeris, which is such a bizarre plant. It's got these divided leaves that close downward at night time. Now, on the axils, it's got these strange bracts, and it produces yellow flowers. And I've just seen this flowering stem here. So hopefully I'll get to photograph some yellow flowers. I bought this at Abbotsbury Subtropical Gardens Plant Fair in, I can't remember when it was, middle to late summer. And I've potted it on. I'm keeping it in the greenhouse for this season, but once it's more mature, I should be able to plant this out and it will act like a big herbaceous perennial. It will get frosted back to the ground in winter. And then apparently, I've never grown it before, so apparently it regrows very, very quickly. Another plant that I got that's new is this one down here. This is an Indigofera pendula, and it's got these really delicate leaves, so that's going to help with that softening that I said I want to introduce into the garden. These small leaves should contrast against some of the really big foliage nicely. And it produces flowers from summer all the way through to the first frosts, and those flowers look like tiny spires, a bit like wisteria, but of pinky red flowers. And I'm really looking to introduce a lot more flowers to the garden next year and find plants that are a bit different from what everybody else is growing. So I'm looking forward to introducing this. Just after I got it, I think Frances on Gardener's World, she was growing one as well, but I don't think it was this form, or possibly it was, but it was a beautiful plant, so I had to get one. And one other plant that I have added to my own collection is this. It's climbing up inside of my greenhouse from this tiny, tiny pot. This is, I believe, an Australian native. It's Hardenbergia violaceae, and it flowers in winter. That's why I've trained it very haphazardly using a quick bodge tie-in up to grow inside the greenhouse. Now, I will take cuttings and I'll experiment with some outside next season. But it's going to have these violet coloured flowers, purple flowers and evergreen leaves. And I'm really looking to experiment with things that flower in winter that I can grow in this space, so that at the weekends, when I get time off from work, I can come in here and I will still be able to enjoy flowers, because those of us who love gardening, especially tropical style gardening, can sometimes feel a bit down and disheartened in the darker days of winter. So to find flowers that you can enjoy in those months, I think it's really important. So I'm going to carry on that mission and see what I can find that flowers in winter that will survive in a frost-free environment, something that's a little bit different. I'll just share this with you quickly. This is Justicia aurea, the yellow flowering Jacobinia. It's a really, really nice plant, but my gosh, is it difficult to grow. It needs so much heat. I struggle. They always look really, really sad. This is another one. I've had these for years, and this is the first time it's flowered. I think I'm going to donate these to a garden somewhere where they've got the greenhouse space to let it grow on and get the heat that it needs. Yeah, it's not as easy as the pink flowering form, but it is, I'd say, worth growing for that flower. But I think I prefer the pink one. Not only is it easier, you get a nice purple underside on the leaves. But yeah, that's just a quick update on how they're chilies, by the way. Those sad plants. So the heat has gone, the chilies are dying back. They were delicious. It was jalapenos, just in case you spotted those. That was just a quick update on how the garden's going at the moment. It's realistic, it's showing you the mess, it's showing you plants that might be looking a bit sad and some that are looking excitingly happy and budding up. And I hope to share more updates with you throughout the season. Thank you so much for watching. Go and check out our new website, and I will see you all in the next one.